I never thought my life could change in a single moment. One second, I was smiling at my in-laws' mansion, pretending everything was fine. The next, they stripped me naked right in front of them, all to humiliate me. And that's when I knew. I was in real danger. My name is Samantha Carter, 28, living in Beverly Hills, California. I married Ryan Miller 6 months ago. Ryan seemed perfect, rich family, loving, charming. Or so I thought. That morning started like any other fancy Beverly Hills morning, sunlight reflecting off the marble floors, the smell of fresh roses in the grand hall. I had just woken up in the guest suite of Ryan's family mansion. Ryan wasn't in the room. His parents, Richard and Veronica Miller, had invited me for breakfast. I smiled politely, trying not to seem nervous. "Good morning, Samantha," Veronica said sweetly. "Ryan's running late, but breakfast is ready." Something about her smile didn't reach her eyes. That subtle sharpness. I felt it, but I ignored it. I went into the grand dining room. Everything was perfect: chandeliers, gold-plated cutlery, rich paintings on the wall. But the atmosphere was tense. "Sit, Samantha," Richard said, in that calm, controlled voice of his. As I sat, I noticed Ryan wasn't there. I shrugged. Maybe he was running late. Then Veronica said casually, but with a smirk, "Ryan told us you love surprises, don't you?" I smiled nervously. "Yes, I guess." And that's when it started. Before I could react, Richard and Veronica stood up, blocking the doors. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice trembling. Veronica laughed coldly. "Just a little family tradition." I didn't understand. Then, in front of me, they began stripping my clothes, piece by piece, ignoring my screams. The maid and the butler, who I thought were my allies, stood frozen, silently watching. I covered myself, horrified, while tears ran down my face. Finally, Richard leaned in close. "You're trying to take what's ours," he hissed. "You think you can marry Ryan and step into our fortune without paying the price?" "What do you mean?" I sobbed. Veronica smirked. "Don't play innocent. Your father's money. Ryan's future. You think we'll let you ruin our family legacy?" It hit me like a brick. They weren't just cruel. They were dangerous. I glanced around frantically. My eyes landed on the vase on the side table. Inside it, my phone. Somehow, in the panic, I had left it there. I grabbed it, hiding it in my hands. If I could just contact my father, everything could change. But first, I had to survive. Richard and Veronica were laughing now, enjoying every second. "You'll learn," Richard said. "Family is power. And power is inherited." Veronica stepped closer, whispering, "You belong to us now. No one can help you." I knew they were wrong. Somewhere in Beverly Hills, a man with more power than theirs was waiting. My father. Just as Veronica raised her hand to push me toward the door, my phone vibrated. A message flashed on the screen. "Samantha, if anything happens, I'm coming. Don't panic." It was from my father. And at that moment, I realized the nightmare was about to end, but not in the way they expected. The second I saw my father's message, hope sparked inside me. I wasn't helpless. Not yet. But I had to act carefully. One wrong move, and this nightmare could become permanent. I crouched behind the grand sofa, my hands clutching my phone. "Samantha, if anything happens, I'm coming. Don't panic." I read it again. My father, Robert Carter, was a billionaire with a reputation for never losing. If he was on his way, I just had to survive a little longer. I glanced at Richard and Veronica. They were laughing, enjoying their control. That was my mistake. They assumed fear meant submission. I had other plans. I whispered into the phone, careful to keep my voice low. "Dad, they've trapped me. Don't call the cops yet. They'll see." His calm voice responded immediately. "Samantha, stay hidden. I'm tracking their location. Don't make a sound, no matter what. Help is coming." I nodded to myself, even though he couldn't see me. Then I noticed something. The butler had left a key on the kitchen counter. If I grabbed the key, I could escape to the guest house. Just enough time to get to my father's private security team. But I had to distract them first. Veronica, I said, stepping forward, trying to sound calm, I need a moment in the bathroom. She raised an eyebrow. Bathroom? Yes, just for a second, I whispered. She hesitated. Something in my tone gave her pause. Finally, she waved me ahead. I moved slowly, hands shaking. The corridor felt endless. Each creak of the marble floor echoed like a gunshot. At the corner, I peeked into the kitchen. The key. Right there on the counter. I held my breath and lunged for it. Just as I grabbed the key, a shadow fell across me. Going somewhere, Samantha? Richard's voice was ice cold. I froze. But I remembered my father's advice, stay calm. Stay smart. I smiled weakly. Just stretching my legs. He laughed, but I noticed a slight hesitation in his eyes. Something told me he wasn't expecting resistance. I ran to the guest house door. It was locked. The key trembled in my hand. I fumbled, praying it fit the lock. Click. I was in. I called my father. They're coming, I whispered. I'm in the guest house. Good. Don't open the main doors, he said. Security is 15 minutes away. Stay hidden. They can't hurt you anymore. 15 minutes. Felt like an eternity. Outside, I could hear them screaming. What did you do? Veronica shouted. Richard's voice was furious. She can't escape. I pressed my ear to the window. They didn't realize I had a key, a plan, and a father ready to destroy them. I noticed the security camera in the corner of the guest house. An idea hit me. I could record everything. Their threats, their cruelty, everything. Evidence my father could use to ensure justice. I pressed record, whispering, "This ends tonight." The screams outside grew louder. Suddenly, the front gate slammed. A fleet of black SUVs rolled in. My father had arrived. And I realized, just as Veronica looked out the window and screamed. They were about to meet the man who could destroy them in seconds. The roar of engines echoed across the driveway. My heart pounded. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. I peeked through the window. Outside, sleek black SUVs pulled up. Men in suits jumped out, their eyes sharp and alert. Robert Carter had arrived. Richard and Veronica were still in the main hall, thinking they controlled everything. "Where are the police?" Richard shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "They're not here," Veronica hissed. "It's your daughter-in-law. She tricked us." I stepped out of the guest house, my phone still recording. Before I could even shout, the front door burst open. My father strode in, tall, commanding, dressed in a tailored suit. Every inch the billionaire he was, exuding confidence, authority, and power. "Richard." "Veronica," he said, his voice calm but deadly. "I believe my daughter has some things to show us." Richard froze. Veronica paled. "Dad." I whispered, relief flooding through me. "Stay behind me," he said, scanning the room. Richard started to yell, "You can't, this house are." "Sit down," my father said, interrupting. Every word was like a hammer. "Or I'll have security handle it." The in-laws realized, for the first time, they were no longer in control. I pressed play on my phone. The video from the guest house security camera started to play on the flat-screen TV in the living room. There we were. Me, stripped and humiliated, my in-laws laughing, enjoying every moment. The footage was brutal. There was no denying it. Richard stammered, we were teaching her manners." Veronica screamed, "That's private family business." My father's eyes were ice. "Not anymore. That ends today." Robert didn't rush to anger. He moved methodically. Security froze the exits, no one could escape. Financial control, all accounts, deeds, and property were frozen remotely. Legal backup, his lawyer on speaker, ready to press charges. Richard tried to pull his usual threats. "Money won't save you now," my father said calmly. "It never did." Veronica started shouting hysterically. "You can't take everything from us." "Oh, I already did," my father replied. "Everything you tried to manipulate now belongs to Samantha. And any attempt to retaliate will end in criminal charges." Richard sank into a chair, defeated. He had never seen someone destroy their plans without raising a hand. My father turned to me. "Samantha, are you all right?" Tears welled in my eyes. I. I'm fine now. Thanks to you. No, he said firmly. You did this yourself. You stayed smart, patient, alive. I just made sure the world couldn't hurt you anymore. He looked at the in-laws with fire. And remember, humiliation has consequences. Richard's phone buzzed. Alerts from the bank, accounts frozen. Deeds signed over to me. Legal notices. Veronica's face went pale. You did this in a day? Yes, my father said. And we're just getting started. Any threats and the law will make sure this family never harms another soul. The in-laws were broken, not physically, but in every way that mattered. As the in-laws sat stunned, powerless, I realized something terrifying and satisfying at the same time. They underestimated the strength of a daughter and the wrath of a father. Outside, the sun reflected off the SUVs, glinting like a promise. Justice had arrived. The house was silent. Not the calm of peace, but the heavy silence of defeat. Richard and Veronica Miller had underestimated two things, me and my father, Robert Carter. And now, they were paying the price. Robert didn't just stop at humiliating them financially. His lawyer, already on speakerphone, outlined the charges. Assault and harassment for the physical and psychological abuse. Illegal confinement for trapping me in the guest house. Fraud and financial misconduct after digging into their hidden assets. Veronica shrieked, "This is impossible." Richard's hands shook. "You can't. This is our house, our money." My father's calm voice cut through the room. "Everything you tried to manipulate is now in Samantha's name. Any attempt to fight this legally will only add more charges." I pressed play on my phone again. The recording from the guest house played the full sequence of their cruelty. Laughing as they stripped me. The threats. The mocking of my father's wealth. Even the maid, who had been terrified to speak up, had been caught on camera standing silently, witnessing the abuse. "Your own actions prove your guilt," Robert said. "And the world is watching." Veronica started sobbing, realizing there was no way out. We never wanted this. It was just discipline." Richard slumped into a chair. "We were only trying to maintain control. We thought." "You thought cruelty would work?" My father interrupted. "It never works." For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. Real fear. Robert had one more surprise. He called his PR team. Within hours, news about the Miller family's scandalous abuse spread across local media. Billionaire daughter-in-law trapped and humiliated. In-laws face criminal investigation and social backlash. Mansion and assets transferred to Samantha Carter. Richard and Veronica watched the news, powerless. Their social reputation destroyed faster than any financial loss could touch them. I finally collapsed into my father's arms. Tears streamed down my face. "Dad, you saved me." "No, Samantha," he whispered. "You saved yourself. You stayed strong when they wanted you to break. I just made sure the world couldn't touch you anymore." For the first time in weeks, I felt safe. Truly safe. The legal team continued uncovering the in-laws' past. Hidden debts. Attempts to manipulate Ryan into signing over his inheritance. Threats against former employees. Every secret revealed made them smaller in my eyes and stronger in the world's justice system. Robert looked at me and said, "Remember this, Samantha. Never let anyone make you feel powerless. Your strength is your shield. And your mind, your greatest weapon." I nodded, knowing this lesson would stay with me forever. Even as the in-laws faced their ruin, I felt a subtle unease. Ryan, my husband, had been silent throughout everything. Would he accept the truth and change? Or was there another betrayal waiting behind the walls of that mansion? Even after the nightmare ended, a question haunted me. Could I ever trust Ryan again? Because surviving your in-laws' cruelty is one thing. But surviving a husband who stayed silent while it happened? That's another. Ryan had been quiet through everything. He didn't intervene when his parents humiliated me. He didn't comfort me when I ran to my father. Now, sitting in the mansion's grand living room, he looked nervous, fidgeting with his hands. "Ryan," I began, my voice calm but firm. "Why didn't you stop them?" He swallowed. "Samantha, I tried. I didn't know what to do. I was scared." I shook my head. "You were scared?" I was being humiliated. Naked. And you were scared. His silence said more than words ever could. Then my father spoke. His voice calm but sharp. Ryan, it's time to tell the truth. Everything. Ryan hesitated. Then confessed. I knew they were planning to pressure you. I overheard them, but I didn't think they'd go this far. I thought, if I said anything, they'd turn on me too. I felt my chest tighten. Betrayal wasn't just a word. It was a punch in the stomach. I realized something crucial. I could no longer rely on Ryan. My survival and justice had been my own doing and my father's. If I wanted to rebuild my life, I needed independence. And I had the means. Even with Ryan's hesitation, my father wasn't done. He ensured full legal protection for me against the in-laws. Financial independence, transferring all assets in my name. Public exposure of the in-laws' past crimes. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. And that's what I got. Ryan begged, I can make it right. Let me help you rebuild. I looked at him for a long moment. Finally, I said, Ryan, you were silent when I needed you most. You don't get to just appear now. He nodded, defeated. Some lessons come too late. Weeks later, I moved into my own home. The mansion? I sold it. I didn't want reminders of fear or betrayal. I focused on rebuilding my life. My father stayed a guiding force. I started a charitable foundation to protect women from abuse. I finally felt safe, strong, and free. Standing on my balcony one evening, looking at the city lights, I whispered to myself, no one can take my dignity. No one can take my power. And no one can define my worth but me. The in-laws? Broken and humiliated. Ryan? Silent and regretful. Me? Stronger than I ever imagined. But one final chapter remained, a complete closure. I finally felt it, the first time in months, peace. Not the quiet of fear, but the quiet of freedom. After surviving my in-laws' cruelty, my husband's betrayal, and the terrifying nightmare in their mansion, I had reclaimed everything that was taken from me, dignity, power, and my life. I moved into my new home, far from the mansion that had held so many terrible memories. The first morning in my own space, I opened the windows. Sunlight poured in, filling the rooms with warmth. Birds chirped outside. I made myself a cup of coffee, just coffee this time, nothing more, and sat down. For the first time, I didn't feel fear. Robert Carter visited me that morning. He smiled, placing a hand on my shoulder. You did it, Samantha, he said softly. You survived, and you stayed smart. That's why you're stronger than anyone in that house ever imagined. I didn't just survive, I said. I lived through it, and I won. Because I refused to let fear control me. He nodded, proud. And that's what matters. Life isn't about avoiding cruelty. It's about rising above it. Meanwhile, Richard and Veronica Miller faced the consequences of their actions. Criminal charges for assault and harassment. Financial ruin after assets were transferred. Public disgrace across Beverly Hills. They had tried to control me, humiliate me, and silence me. Instead, they had made themselves powerless. Ryan? He stayed silent. He begged for forgiveness, but I realized some trust cannot be rebuilt after betrayal. I chose myself. My dignity. My independence. Sometimes loving someone isn't enough when they fail you at the worst possible moment. I didn't just survive, I transformed my pain into purpose. I started a foundation for women facing abuse, helping them escape dangerous families. I reconnected with supportive friends and mentors. I focused on my career, my passions, and building a life on my own terms. For the first time, I felt truly free. One evening, I walked through my new home, stopping in front of a mirror. I didn't see fear. I didn't see shame. I saw strength, courage, resilience. I whispered to myself, no one will ever strip me of my dignity again. No one. And for the first time, I truly believed it. The in-laws had been destroyed financially, socially, and morally. My father had ensured justice. Ryan had shown his true colors. And I had emerged unbroken, powerful, and unstoppable. Some people survive. Some people thrive. I chose the latter. If Samantha's story inspired you, like, share, and follow. Share it with anyone who needs courage to face betrayal. Remember, your strength and dignity are yours alone. No one can take them if you refuse. Sometimes the darkest moments show you the brightest strength inside yourself.